A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Disappointing home loss for the Jaguar Nation. Football staff shakeup number 2. Familiar territory, and I'll explain that. And a SWAC Football Report. That's all coming up on the Carlos Brown Show. Now, let's introduce the panel. Good morning, Coach Pettaway.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good afternoon, Wheeler.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
And good morning, Charles Edmond.
Good morning, Carlos. You okay?
I'm fabulous. I'm fine. I'm a warrior. I'm a realist. I call it the way I see it.
A lot of folks text me last week, wanted me to check on you, wanted me to drive to Baton Rouge and make sure you're not laid up somewhere.
Tell them save that gas money. Because I said last week, my heart was for the Jaguars, but I said they would not win. And I wanted to be wrong. I desperately wanted to be wrong, but I was not. Jaguars dropped a 30-7 decision to Alabama State. Before we get into the statistics, this game offensively actually did a little bit better, but 4 turnovers and penalties. That's how you sum that up, and then you can look within the game, some things familiar that you saw, that you wanted to see, but you didn't see. So 4 turnovers, Coach Pettaway. Quarterback responsible for all 4 turnovers. And penalties, almost double digits for almost 100-plus yards. So it is, I can say it this way, it is now deep disappointment, and emphasize the deep in the Jaguar Nation. 30-7, Jaguars 1-3 overall, and they haven't played a conference game yet. That'll be in 2 weeks. Also, the big news was the football staff shakeup. Coach Graves at his weekly press conference now decided to have co-offensive coordinators, but the guy who's in charge of calling the plays will be Fred McNair. And so that has been rumbling through the Jaguar Nation. And then today, they're playing up the FBS team that's 2-1, Fresno State. So realistically, you can look at this team now. Really going to be 1-4 coming into the first home conference. So you got 2 weeks to try to get things right in conference. And then you start off with the defending champion. So September 27th could be a day that it will let you know what's going on as far as in Southern University football program. And then I also had a title, Familiar Territory. Bear with me. Here's what I mean. It's a similarity between Coach Dooley and the Coach Graves tenure. You might say, how is that? Let's go back. Coach Dooley won the West his first year, right? If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. Then the next year, he was let go. Administration went to him with some things that concerned them. He basically said, I got it. I know what I'm doing. Okay. And so the rest was history. He was let go after year 2. Maybe that's where the Carlos Brown contract came. I don't know. Coach Graves, first year, wins the West. Goes to the championship like Coach Dooley and that staff, and they lost to Jackson State. But now, Here's the difference. Here's the difference. When approached, Coach Graves said, yeah, changes need to be done. And
And he
so,
did it.
and he did it. So now that's the big, that's the big difference. Now, if we take a poll of fandom in the Jaguar Nation term Charles likes to use all the time, yeah, they're pretty upset. They want a clean house, clean clean house. I know Willa, clean house all the way from the administrative to man. I'm going to always support Southern University. So I'm still hoping that things can turn around. But if they don't, then I'm a realist. I'll come back and say it doesn't look well. But that is where we at with this football team. And then expectations are always high. And with those expectations, you expect a much better start. So it is what it is right now. It's not. All right. Everybody in the chat room, we appreciate you. Good morning, panel. Wheeler, we kind of text during the week, and Coach Pettaway.
Yeah.
It's it's a tough time. And remember, I always say it's some adversity
Mm-hmm.
throughout the year. How do you respond to it? Coach Pettaway, I'm sure you never went on a 3 or 4 game losing streak when you were coaching. Coach
Please.
Pettaway said he did.
Yeah. I think that thing got up to 4, maybe even 6. I don't know, but I think the biggest thing is the people in the room. They got to believe in each other. That's how you turn it around. The coaches have to get on top of the players and make sure that they're all still pulling in the same direction. And this is Coach Graves' second year, so they're still working the kinks out. And I saw and read where they were making changes on the offensive side of the ball, and he was going to special teams, that kind of stuff. The biggest thing that I like about what has happened here, he's taking ownership. He's not passing the ball. He's taking ownership for their lack of success, and you can't beat that. When a coach stands up and says, I accept responsibility for what's going on. That's the first step. And then the second step is doing something about it. He's doing that. So let's see. Now, you're not going to see the results today now because Fresno State is not going to let you come and pick that check up and then leave out there with a W now. But you just want to see some things that they have worked on. You want to see some progress in this game. And then, like you said, the big test is going to be when they do play that first conference game. That will be the measuring stick that I think Jag Nation needs to measure this team on. But there's still a lot of football left to be played, and they just gotta, if they can stay healthy out of this game today, I think Coach Graves is gonna have them ready to play.
Carlos, I applaud Coach Graves for the moves that he has made. He's recognized that from an administrative point of view. That's what you want to see out of your head coach. You want to see him own up to the shortcomings, that sort of thing. And then you want to hear the plan in terms of how he's going to rectify it moving forward. And Coach Graves has done all that, and he's done it in a public manner. So, I mean, granted, we probably was all hoping they'd be no worse than 2-2 after today. Could possibly very well be, and most likely will be 1-4. But there's some ways to grade success coming out of this game. If they're able to implement some of the things that he's put in place, if they're able to look a little better and feel a little better, about themselves at the end of today, then that's gonna make a difference for them moving to the next ball game. But like I said, I applaud Coach Graves for recognizing the issues and going right at those issues head first. And they just got to block out the noise right now. Got to block out the noise from outside of the locker room. As Coach Pettaway was saying, make sure that the locker room in and of itself is locked down tightly.
Yep.
Everybody's on board and they're ready to go and move forward. And then just keep it moving from there. You know, his goals are still in front of him. There's no doubt about that. Nothing's out there that's been eliminated. You know, so I mean, and it's still wide open. So I mean, let's get it. You know, let everybody outside of the locker room come back off the ledge. Tell them it's all right. Come on back in. Come on back in the window. You know, it's all right. Everything gonna be okay. You know,
Mhm.
just stay behind the team and let's go.
Mhm. Charles, you have a deep look.
Um, yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, last week, and I hate, I'll say this: I hate that I was right last week. We gave our predictions, and I thought that the worst case scenario for last week was what happened, turned out to happen, is that offensively it was a struggle. Defensively, you did a good job of getting off the field, but just couldn't sustain it, and Alabama State pulled away in the second half. And so it was kind of,
Mhm.
it kind of went that way. And I hate to say that I'm right. I say this because I'm not trying to rub it in, but you just kind of felt like it was going to go that way. Is this pressing the panic button? Is this pressing the panic button? You played 3 games: North Carolina Central, Mississippi
Mhm.
Valley, and Alabama State. If it wasn't as ugly as it turned out to be last week in the Pete Richardson Classic, and I'm sure Pete Richardson wasn't happy with what he saw last week, would you be making these changes at this time? Your starting quarterback going into the season missed the bus going to Atlanta, got knocked out of the Valley game, didn't play last week, shouldn't play today.
Nope, not playing today.
Not good. Good.
Concussion
So
protocol.
correct. Okay, that's great. So with all that being said, you're working through your number 2 and probably your number 3 quarterback at this point. I'm just wondering, when you make a change and this early in the season, and yes, everything's still in front of you, it does create a level of anxiety. Does it need to be done on the offensive side of the ball? Is it more of the offensive lack of continuity? Or, Southern's given up an average of 30 points a game the first 3 games of the season. Now, offensively, 7 turnovers in the first 3 games? That's troublesome, but you haven't had your starting quarterback for the most part. Defensively, you're giving up an average of 30 points a game. I didn't see that coming the first 3 games. And, special teams, obviously, Terrence Graves is going to be coaching special teams. He's going to be more involved in that. He said that this week.
He
I'm just
should.
wondering. I'm just wondering, I think the powers that be and Coach Graves probably looked at the schedule. You got Fresno State, cast that aside. You got a bye week next week. You got Jackson the following week, another bye week. And then you play Bethune-Cookman now in Daytona as compared to Tampa, which I think is a good idea. I think what people are saying is that this thing can jump off the rails real quick. And you can't afford to go 0-2 to start conference at this point. And so you're trying to shake things up. Is it necessarily needed? I don't know. I mean, when you haven't had your number 1.
Yes.
Charles, I'll
Yes.
answer that question for you,
Yes.
Charles. I'll answer that
Yeah.
question for
You've
you.
got to
All right,
do it.
I'll answer that question for you. Those moves weren't made off of just last week. Those moves were made off of the past 3 weeks. I think it just got to the point where Coach Graves figured he saw enough and he needed to go ahead and make some changes. So I don't think everything was predicated off of the game from this past week. We've been
Mhm.
talking about the offensive play calling and things like that. We've discussed that on this show quite a few times. And I'm sure that Coach Graves probably saw some things along the line and felt that now was as good a time as any, which I think that going out to Fresno, a game that we all know and feel that he's probably not going to win, but it gives
Mhm.
him an opportunity to go ahead and make some changes and experiment, so forth and so on, under game situation. It gives him all next week with no game, to fine tune whatever changes that, he wants to make, in any other manner, and then you head into, to the Jackson State game. So for me, I think it was prime time. It was a great time for him to go ahead and do what it is that he needed to do. Other people may have said, well, probably should have waited till the bye week and, la-di-da, so forth and so on. But doing it this week here gives him an opportunity to see some of the changes live, and live fire. So, he's got a better opportunity to continue to evaluate whatever it is that he's trying to do. So I kind of look at it from that point of view. But Charles, I understand where you're coming from. Some people would say, you pull the trigger a little quickly, that sort of thing. My thing is, I'd rather go ahead and pull it now than to wait another week. Okay, and now I'm fumbling and juggling. And, I just compound whatever it is that's going on moving forward.
And something, if you look at the stats really wasn't that bad offensively. It wasn't their best output, but it wasn't its worst. But 4 turnovers, and penalties. It didn't set them up for success. And then you're already struggling. And Wheeler, you're kind. Because I can even see parts of last year, you saw the same problem offensively. The defense was doing much better last year. Now with the offense still struggling, we'll use that term, and then the defense struggling, now it's the wound is open more. And the defense last Saturday, Body didn't run all over Southern like he did UAB. He didn't. They had a good plan, but it's just I agree. He made the right move.
Well, let me ask this question, because Carlos, you've seen this team more so than I have. What is it schematically that's going on offensively? You got a terrific and dynamic running back room. And you haven't had your starting quarterback for one game at all in the first 3. You've got Cameron McCoy, the backup quarterback. Is it something schematically? Because clearly offensively it's an issue, and it's to the point where now you have Fred McNair that's going to be calling the plays now. What do you see schematically? Maybe I should ask that because I haven't seen them that much, but I know it's a struggle. What are you saying there, and is it fixable?
It's fixable, but what I've seen is, and you remember I said last week, Coach Pettaway and Wheeler, you remember, every team that you're going to play against the defensive coordinator is going to what? Load the box. And they're going to say, we don't believe McCoy and the play calling. You can't beat us throwing the ball. And so most people say play calling, you call a play into the line, call another line. Then when you get in 3rd and long, it's a deep pass or it's some type of bubble screen. We talked about it last week. There was no intermediate passing. You didn't see it. You didn't see it last week. It's either short screens, bubble screens, or it's deep passes. I don't know how I can translate it into a basketball term, Coach Pettaway, but you're not. I guess you're not utilizing the 94 feet on the basketball court.
Right. Well, it just boils down to them not using the entire field. That's all that is. You got seam routes. They're not using the tight end.
No.
But these are things that schematically they can change. You don't like making these wholesale changes during the season because you don't have the proper time to practice this stuff. But I can see them. I thought one of the strong suits for Southern this year would have been the running back room. I thought that they'd be able to rush the football, and that way you would take the pressure off of the quarterback. Because if you're running that football, that gives that quarterback less opportunities to turn the ball over because the ball's in the hands of some other people. So that means that the offensive line has to step up in order to open some more holes, whether you're going up the middle or whether you're trying to get it on the perimeter. So I think offensively, there got to be some changes made. And then on the defensive side now, defense was supposed to be Southern's bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing that.
Correct.
You didn't see it in the first game.
Nope.
And when it comes to defense, I'm still waiting to see a SWAC team that's really playing great defense. So far, I have not seen that. Not even with my Bulldog. That's the only thing that I got against our team. I just don't think that we're stopping people like we should. We won the game against Alcorn, but they gashed us for almost 200 yards. 168 yards rush. You can't you can't do that, man. So defensively, Southern has to step it up, and then they've got to find other weapons on the offensive side of the football. They got a great running back room. Use those guys.
Carlos, those routes that you're talking about, they're in the tree.
Well, somebody hadn't been using
in
them.
the tree. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You're not teaching just the long routes and the extremely short routes. You got number routes, in the tree that deal with the intermediate passing game. It's just a matter of continuity in terms of when it's going to be called, when it should be called, and executed. I mean, as Coach Pettaway said, and as you said, you got a great running back room, and they're going to, teams are going to stack the box. There's no doubt about that. And you're going to hit it up in there a couple of times to find out, how tough it is, see if you can loosen things up, that sort of thing. I mean, realistically, you can't expect 5 people to block 8. It's not going to happen. It don't work like that. But when you see that, you got to be prepared from a coordinating point of view to be able to change that play on the fly. Some things in place to signal changes at the line of scrimmage, that sort of thing. All the little basic stuff that we all know. And it shouldn't be as much of an issue. Now,
But
the
we're not
boy
seeing it.
McCoy, obviously, he's not on par with the kid that was starting, that sort of thing. But, we know our second string guy is just a play away. That's always. So you spend just as much time, prepping that second string guy as you do that first string guy, because he's a play away from prime time. So I refuse to let that be an excuse, that this boy, he's thrust into the starting role now, and all of a sudden it's going to take him a while to get adjusted and all that. That's BS to me. I mean, he know he'll play away. He working, and the coaches are working with him, even if it takes extra time outside of practice or what have, in terms of getting him ready, for that opportunity when it comes. Because we all know it's going to come. It's just a matter of time. Somebody's going to get hurt. So that next guy's got to be able to step in. We got to have things already tailor-made to his skill set, and we're calling plays that are more beneficial for his skills. And then let's keep it moving.
Willa, that is what I've heard to the point. Something designed for his skill set. Put him in a position, roll him out. Give him an option to throw a pass. Now we're going to see if Coach McNair, because like Charles, when we texted during the week, he's a former head coach, but to me, he's an offensive guy in his collegiate level. So it's going to be really, you're right, utilizing the tight end. I mean, and then a couple of times they threw to him, drop passes. Coach Pettaway, if I had hair, I would pull it out if I'm a coach.
Maybe that's why they have been going to him, Carlos.
Right. They see it in practice. They see it in practice.
Yeah. So, where we at? Strong running game. 179 against Alabama State. They threw for 160 yards. That was strictly on McCoy. But the 4 turnovers, it was 6-0 at the half. Those 4 turnovers were brutal in the penalties. If you don't have them 4 turnovers, the score is a little bit closer. But the body of work this season, I think, led for Coach Graves to make the change. You know, he first game against North Carolina Central, Southern rushed for 200 yards, but they lost by 17. Didn't score in the second half. So these things are not new. Like, oh, wow, this just came up. To your point, Willa, we've seen these deficiencies. And so I applaud him, whether the AD came and said, look, Coach Gray, you know, if I'm an AD, I'm coming and say, what can I do to help? You know,
and that's it. And that's it.
and
That's
he
the
decided
end of it right there, because you don't want to be in a position where you telling a coach to make assistant coaching moves and all that sort of thing. Your job as an administrator, okay, is to support the coach. You know, if you want to make a suggestion, that's pretty much up to you. But, you know, I would stay away from that, you know, with the understanding that coach knows that everybody's being evaluated. But I'm not going to make a decision on an assistant coach. That's up to the head coach. I'm not going to do that.
And he
You
did,
know,
and he
if
did the
I
right
do
thing.
that,
And
I might well be the head coach. What I need you for?
Well, that's where we at. Yeah.
But really, I mean, Willie, you're a former AD. What can the athletic director do at this point? I mean, other than console, just be a sounding board. I mean, the X's and O's and all that's up to the head coach and staff. I mean, we already know it's assumed that the AD is going to be there for you. But at any point, what can the athletic director do, unless there's some other stuff going on within the program that you got to deal with? But what can an athletic director do? You're struggling offensively. I personally think, and I don't know, I'm not in Baton Rouge, I think the change probably started from higher than the athletic director. I think it came from probably administrative. You know, Pete Richardson was there. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of folks high up that probably say, you know what, something's got to shake here. And it kind of trickled down the line to where it is right now. I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't that.
Charles, they could tell you that every game.
You got to continue to support him.
But this game right here, your SWAC opener, or your first home game, I should say, the Pete Richardson Classic. Pete Richardson was there. I mean, playing at Mumford, all that stuff, and just the way it looked in totality, especially in the second half, it just probably gave you the impression that something different had to happen, just based on that. I mean, Alabama State's going to be a team to be reckoned with. There's no doubt about that. You know, there's some people that I've talked to that say they still don't believe in Andrew Body. He's going to find a way to give it away, turnover, whatever. The first couple of games, he's proving that Alabama State's going to be a team to be dealt with, as well as Alabama A&M. Based on what I saw last week, I think they're going to be a team to be dealt with over Florida A&M. But I think just the way that second half unfolded, to where people say, you know what, this ain't it. And however way it got started, however way that conversation got started, whether it was from, I don't think it came from Banks, to be honest. I think it came from higher up than Banks. It just didn't look good. And so you use Fresno State, get through that game, come back healthy, get the paycheck. You got the bye week. You got Jackson, then another bye week. I think that kind of helped make this conversation, because now you got 2 bye weeks with a new scheme with Coach McNair running it. You got Graves doing it. And so I think the calendar and the schedule a little bit helped you make this decision for you. Because this is my opinion, Carlos. If Southern didn't have a bye week until October, I don't know if the change is made, to be honest, because you don't have time.
You don't have time.
Charles, you got it from an administrative point of view. You got to continue to support him, number one.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, if you're not a football guy, don't make football suggestions. Okay? Because that rings hollow. You know, stay away from that portion of it if that's not your area of expertise. So if I'm Coach Banks, I'm a basketball guy, that sort of thing. You know, I can relate from a basketball point of view, that sort of thing. So I may be able to give him a few tips basketball-wise, you know, that's going to help him moving forward. But if you're not a football guy, just be supportive. You know, you can talk about what you see, you know, but you need to be there for the coach, you know, just letting him know, you know, any changes you need to make, I'm behind you 100%. So you want to ease his mind in terms of any administrative things that may be rumbling or tumbling in the wind. But you want to make sure that he understands that you got his back. Is there any message that I need to get out there to the masses, to calm down whatever chatter I'm hearing out there, that sort of thing? Tell me what you think, Coach. Tell me what's on your mind. You can bounce that off me on the for real tip that you may not be able to bounce off some of your assistant coaches, that sort of thing. Let's talk. Let's be frank. Let's be upfront. If we want to call SOBs and all that, come on in. Let's do that. We can do that. I'm going to be that sounding board for you.
And Wheeler, talking with Rodney Kirschman, they do hear the feedback. They do hear the fans. They do. The players, they hear it. So there's a thing called constructive criticism, and you just don't get personal. That's kind of why with social media, it's kind of balanced for me, because some have good points, but if you get personal, I'm turning it off. I'm not watching it, because I put myself in that same position. How would I feel? And back to game one, and then the last game. The second half of game one, no points were scored in Alabama State. So I just don't think, although the ambiance, Coach Richardson is all of that, this thing has been building. It has been building. So it's not just the Alabama State game. It's a collective of all the games. Plus, last year there were some games. That's why I gave you the scenario, the similarity with the previous coaching staff or head coach, and now the difference is when they came and say, "What can we do? Can we help you? What can we do from our end?" Like you said, Wheeler. If I say I got this, I don't need to change nothing. Okay, then you're on your own. I did my due diligence. I came and said, "How can I help?" But you say, "No, I got it. I know what I'm doing." I'm paraphrasing. This scenario with Coach Graves is not like that. Yeah, the fan part of me, I'm very disappointed. A lot of Jaguar Nation disappointed. And look, after week 2, what we saw, I think a lot of fans are disappointed.
And Mark Ferguson ain't a bad coach, Carlos. I mean, Coach Graves saw something in him that gave him that position from the beginning. But we all need a little help out there, that sort of thing. Maybe he was too proud to ask for help, and that's where the head coach steps in. And, look, this is what I see. This is what we're going to do. This is what we need to do, so forth and so on. It ain't personal by no means, and from a coaching point of view, if you take it personal, then you're not fit to be a coach. Because thin skin is the order. I mean, thick skin is the order of the day. When you're in a coaching position, ain't no doubt about that. You're going to hear things you don't want to hear, that sort of thing. You don't. I always say, don't listen to the messenger. Listen to the message. Take the message for what it's worth, and let's move on. Well, Frederick's not a bad coach. He just needs some help, I think, in some areas, that sort of thing. And now that he has it, I mean, he always had Coach McNair there to bounce things off of, that sort of thing, which is always or should have been a plus. I would have leaned heavily on in that arena from the start. You got a guy here with extensive head coaching experience, that sort of thing, on the offensive side of the ball. I'm pulling him off to the side at random. Look, Coach, what you see? How you think things are going. That, even before Coach Frederick makes that move, I'm in McNair's ear or in somebody else's ear trying to figure out, what's going on. How can I do my job better? And we got to look at it from that point of view.
And, it's interesting that you say that. Well, go ahead, Charles. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, as far as Coach McNair is concerned, of course, he was the coach at Alcorn, of course. He had 2 offensive coordinators as the head coach, Fred Kice and Elliot Ratton. And McNair was the type of head coach, that kind of let his coordinators do their thing. He would interject from time to time and when absolutely needed, and there were times. So he allowed his coordinators to do their thing. So I'm pulling for him as far as that's concerned, and hopefully he'll be able to change some things up. But I'm looking at it from the other side too. You know, I love the Jaguar Nation and I know their fan base is anxious. If this works, great. If this works and they get back on track, great. But what if it doesn't work? Are we saying that
it will be dealt with
changes after this season? Are we saying that? I mean, the schedule is unforgiving. You got a couple of bye weeks that helps you out, but you got Jackson, you got Bethune-Cookman, you got Prairie View. I mean, you have you got a very favorable Western Division schedule on the back end. If this doesn't work out, where the offense is still stuttering and stammering and your defense doesn't tighten up, you still got those things. Southern's been to 2 of the last 3 SWAC championship games. The expectations are high, very high. Is Atlanta or bust? Then what?
It will be dealt with.
Wait
a minute, Willa. It will be dealt with. It will be dealt with. I'm gonna say it that way.
Bust thing. I think that Atlanta or bust thing is for the birds. I really do. You know, He's there early. He already there earlier than he probably should be, having just taken the job in the second year. Now I understand, you know, all the other stuff that go along with that, because he went to the championship game last year. Now it's Atlanta or bust, that sort of thing. I can see that from outside circles. From inside the circle, to me, it's not that. That's not the case. That's not the case.
Yeah, it's
you
like
know, if we do the things necessary to get there, then that's great. You know, but I mean, if we don't make it to Atlanta, somebody's disappointed, obviously. But to me, it ain't a lost season, that sort of thing. I'm looking at the progress along the way. You know, I always said that first year success thing was always the kiss of death for anybody. And it could very well have been the kiss of death for Coach Graves, because now everybody's expecting him to get to Atlanta. You know, and I would like for that to happen. There's no doubt about that. I'm more interested in how we're playing right now and the journey along the way, that sort of thing, than I can deal with the end results at the end of the day. That's just me. That's my administrative hat on at that time, at this time. But I'm not going to say, if we don't make it to Atlanta, oh, hell, you know, the world has ended, that sort of thing. And, you know, everybody run for the shelters, and it's time to put the coach on the Carlos Brown contract, and let's find the next person and move on and all that sort of thing. I'm not. I ain't in that. I ain't in that movie theater yet.
Right.
Well, we need to take a break, but it's different. You can throw up a lot of different scenarios. What happens if they catch fire and they repeat last year? Get to the championship. Remember, we talked about that scenario, just scenario. And we were talking about adding the extensions, rollovers, you know, lightning in the bottle. It can happen. Now, if it goes the opposite way, it's cause and effect again. Now, will I say Coach Graves, which I consider a very good person, would he be considered to be let go? It's a possibility, but I will say this. I believe when you've seen it in different scenarios, then you change coordinators. Now, when you change coordinators, if you do that, then they're coming in with a possible, because he's got a 2-year contract guaranteed, and I think the 3rd year is an option, if I'm not mistaken. But I'll look it up. But you're just hoping that the things get turned around. All fans are the same, no matter if it's Alabama A&M, Alcorn.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could turn and say the same thing about Alcorn.
Yeah.
They don't have no wins, and they going up and playing this evening. So
yeah.
But
How
we'll
many
come back.
other teams? How many other teams are making these changes now? Because I mean, clearly,
Nobody else has.
Southern's not the only school that's not doing well at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm not hearing or seeing or reading of anybody else that is actively looking to make changes. At least they have put it out there for public consumption. But how many other schools need to be doing that right now?
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm just throwing a question out there for the masses.
Well, I'll answer the question.
Well, wait. Let's go to a break. We well overdue, and I'm looking for EA.
Okay.
I don't see EA.
I apologize, Carlos.
No,
Carlos.
but I don't see EA. Where is he at? You know, last week in another side conversation came up. We are just not successful playing non-conference games. And by the way, hats off to Jackson State. I saw most of that game. They represented themselves very well.
They did put up a great fight.
Yes,
Definitely.
sir. And you know, and I just got to tell the truth. You know how I feel about. I love the Jackson State fans, but they're just like me, cocky and arrogant. So, but that's the entry point. We'll come back to that, Wheeler. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
I'm returning to Clinton, Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton, Paris, we take the pain out of being heard.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Attention football fans. The Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge kickoff is back in Atlanta on August 23rd. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina.
We Are One by Maze, a appropriate song. Welcome back to the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Greg Johnson, good morning to you. He says good morning to me and the team, the panel. 9 penalties for 94 yards. Not good. But Alabama State, 8 penalties for 76 yards. Andrew Body, 16 of 25. I believe that's over 50%. For 198 yards, 2 TDs, no interception. He didn't hurt his team. Camroy McCoy, 14 of 29. That's a little bit under 50%. For 160 yards, 1 TD, 2 interceptions. Trey Holly, you were talking about the running back room, 70 yards net. Cam McCoy, 55. And Mike Franklin, 48 yards on 8. That's a 6-yard pop. 6 yards a carry. So there are tools in the tool shed. We just got to have a good trigger guy. Don't hurt the team. And Wheeler and Coach Pettaway, ball security. Not to mention the drops, but the ball security. How can we address that in practice?
Well, there's different drills.
Drills, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they got different drills that they take them through where they're punching at the ball and making sure that they're holding it properly. First of all, yeah, the coaching staff know what to do when it comes to that. Yeah, those are veteran coaches, so they know what drills they need to work on in order to get those running backs and receivers too now to hold the ball properly. But see, Carlos, that's not a Jaguar problem. That's everybody. When you look around the SWAC, we're suffering from the same thing. We're suffering from the same thing. We got inconsistency on the offensive side of the ball. Then you got deficiencies on the defensive side. Everybody's suffering from that. Because I guarantee you in Huntsville, we are. At Alabama and the Bulldogs are suffering too because defensively they're not where they need to be. Now we had a great game out of our quarterback, but when you look at what's happening on the defensive side of the ball, that's something to be desired, man.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting because last week we talked about a good showing against a Power 5 team in Arkansas, and then when you come in the conference, even though it didn't count, your fellow institutions you know each other,
right? So
that's why somebody's like, well, with Andrew Body, he ran amok on University of Alabama Birmingham, but Southern had a good defensive plan, and I go back to it was a turnover. So with that being said, I said last week 2 was going to be, because we're about to go to hour number 2, and it was going to be tough with some of these non-conference games. It wasn't pretty, but again, Jackson State had a good accounting of themselves. Prairie View went down. Texas Southern didn't do bad at first. Really, it wasn't a blowout, but it ended up being a blowout. And so now Southern and Alcorn play up this week. So it's tough. It's tough, but I know it. I get it. Everybody will say, well, you got to win the conference. But to me, that's a given. That's a given. You want a conference championship. Collectively, can we start doing better? We have the same conversation in basketball. Scheduling smart. And I know every time I go talking about, well, we shouldn't play this many guarantee games, I get shots at me. I got EA telling me I would ruin Southern's budget if I would only allow a certain amount of games. And I've talked to the guys in the athletic department. They basically said you're right, but we're not there yet. You get me, Wheeler? They're not there yet.
The guarantee games, Carlos, ain't the reason for lack of success. And for us or anybody to place the blame solely in that arena is just really kind of kidding themselves, Carlos.
Well, I'm kidding myself.
Wheeler,
I'm kidding myself.
Hold up, Wheeler.
Don't leave Carlos the kid.
Hey, Carlos, hold up, now, Wheeler.
Oh, here we go for the conversation again.
Who played up last week and lost 3 quarterbacks in the same game?
He did. I mean, but Coach Pettaway,
You lost 3 quarterbacks in one game.
Let me guess. It can happen at any time.
People that he put out there.
Oh.
And granted, I don't know what else to say about that, Coach. You know, it's probably a game in and of itself that probably should not have been scheduled for the pitiful dollars that they got out of it. You know, for me, if you got a budget of $121 million, granted, you got to give me more than $475 to play you in a football game.
Now you're talking, Wheeler.
So I ain't pissed. I'm pissed because I lost 3 quarterbacks. There's no doubt about that part. Okay. But I'm more so pissed, Coach Pettaway, because we settled for a pitiful amount of guarantee. You know, to me, what they say, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. You know,
Wheeler,
so,
you could have given me $700,000, but if I lost my top 3 quarterback, where does that leave me as a team and as a coach?
I would have been in remorse, Coach Pettaway, but I would have felt a little better about the check. But injuries are gonna happen.
Oh, yeah.
To be of that magnitude, there's no doubt about that. But hell, he could have played Alabama Baptist and lost 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but the chances are more likely when you playing when you playing up. Just like Grambling, I don't think had any injuries.
I understand you.
Yeah,
I understand you. Ain't no doubt about that. Ain't no doubt about
that. That is an anomaly.
Hindsight is always 20/20.
That is an anomaly. I agree. Losing 3 quarterbacks playing up, I think that just aggravates the situation when that happens. But again, you know, we talk about these guaranteed games, guys. What's the other option? I mean, if you stop playing those games and decide you're going to play FCS opponents, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that at all.
So
what the option was, Charles.
Well, let me ask you this.
Put it on Coach Pettaway and basketball.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If the day comes that you can, and I said, is there a backup plan on the panel?
No.
You said no, there's no backup plan. So should you stop playing football
No.
altogether? I would not. What it says, man should not live by bread alone. I would not be I would be uncomfortable in that position. That's just me. You know, Wheeler,
that ain't gonna happen
from the administration.
But
what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
Ain't gonna happen.
What's gonna happen when it happens?
That ain't gonna happen.
They'll
tell you what's gonna happen.
What's gonna happen?
Okay, men's and women's tiddlywinks will no longer exist.
You better cut a man's sport and a women, because if you
just
cut the women,
men's and women's tiddlywinks will no longer exist.
Yep. Gonna be the trickle down effect.
And that's gonna be about the bottom line at the end of the day.
Yep.
But you know, and I'll get Dr. Cavill. They had a conference in Jackson, and I'm thinking, because I didn't get a chance to watch it, kind of addressing similar things, but as a conference. I did pick this up. They're making more than 3 FBS conferences right now. Right. So there is some potential in there. But I'm just saying, I'm looking at the big picture. I know I'm in the minority. But if I put it this way, if you could do it and have it that way, I believe some of us are so conditioned that we just think we oh God, we just can't make it. But what if? What are you gonna do?
Okay, well, if you do that, okay, well, let's just put it out there. If you do that and decide we're not playing any FBS schools under no circumstances, then it puts pressure it puts everybody, that fan base, on alert. And we're going to play 6 to 7 home games a year. You're going to have to either get sponsorships and bring money on that side of the fence. And then you're going to have to pretty much fill up your stadium week in and week out on the home side of it to bring in that kind of revenue to make
Charles,
up for that.
We know that that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean, but
with all of our efforts, we can put forth as much as we can, that sort of thing. We know that historically it hasn't happened. And, you can set out the 5-alarm fire and all that sort of thing. I don't think those things change at all. And even with that, Charles, it's not going to come up to the amount that you're going to lose in terms of not playing those guarantees. So it's going to be a combination of things. It's going to be exactly what you're saying. There's no doubt about that. You're going to have to put out the alarm, and we're going to have to fill up outside, and, we're going to have to do a good job of marketing and la-di-da, so forth and so on. We're probably going to have to cut back on some of our sport offerings. There's no doubt about that. And then we got to look from a budgetary point of view to see within those sports that we do offer, what it is that we can do without.
Right.
So it's going to have to be a combination pretty much of all of those things. Hopefully, the administration will allow us to raise student fees ever so slightly, if at all possible. But I mean, like I said, it's going to have to be a combination of things. And that's the only way that
and even that's going to be a pushback.
And it's going to be a great pushback.
And even the students.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And I've always been one not to ask for a student fee increase.
Yeah.
Because the goal has always been to get the student fees lower than 50% of an athletic budget. Right. And I think right now, for most of our schools,
it's way over
70%.
that. Yes, sir. It's way over that. Yeah.
No doubt about it.
But
I mean, Valley doesn't play FBS schools because they can't.
Right.
But you see what happens with them in terms of the budgetary situation. So you can see there's a living example of what happens right there when you don't have the ability to play up from a football point of view. They push the load on basketball. Unfortunately, and they try to nickel and dime with the FCS schools as much as possible, but it doesn't equate to what it needs to equate to, if they were playing the larger schools.
Well, I got a text message here. He says football guarantee games will be drying up because the strength of schedule will be counted now.
That's true.
That's coming. That's right around the corner. I told you all that a month ago, that when they start talking about that strength of schedule, we will no longer be able to participate in these games.
That's true.
And Carlos, I got 2 bad memories about playing up. Do you all remember when what's his name? Eugene Bruce from Grambling, when he got hurt? I think it was against Louisville, and then Carlos, unfortunately, the young man for Southern, they got hurt against Georgia. Those are the 2 things that jump out at me when you start talking about playing up in football, man. Those will be memories that'll be with me and those individuals forever, man.
I also tell you, Carlos, what I'm not doing is allowing a new coach coming in the door to play way up. Because they haven't gotten ingrained to the point where, the weight room is where it needs to be in terms of the kids physically getting to where they need to be. Because you're coming in, you got a 80% new roster and all that sort of thing and stuff. So physically, I don't think kids are prepared yet to rise up to meet that level. And so that's another reason why I would not have played Central Florida yet with a new coach coming in the door and damn near a whole new roster, knowing that, they haven't had that weight room activity that's necessary to get those bodies up to par to where they can withstand that kind of pressure.
But
But it's
some
hard
of these schedules are done in advance.
That's right.
Like with
that may
Shade.
be the case. That may be the case, Coach Pettaway. But
Shade had no choice.
Somehow, some way, I'm looking to get out of there if at all possible.
Well, if you get out of the game, then you're gonna pay. There's a penalty to get out of these contracts.
And normally it is, Charles. But I would rather pay that penalty than risk those kids who aren't physically ready to play on that level yet. So I do, contrary to popular belief, Carlos, I do have a heart. It ain't a 10 man, So, but I would try my damnedest not to put the kids in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I just, again, if I'm the last man shouting, I'm going to be consistent. If I was an AD, I'm not. I'm limiting those games. I didn't say cut it out. I said I'm limiting those big games. And we got you, Wheeler. We got the receipts that said you said you believe in balance.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what we were forgetting. But I know it's excitement of going to Starkville. I know it's excitement going to Columbus. I see it on TV. LSU. But man, no. I'm not for, and I'm going to move on. I'm not for playing those games every year. I remember Southern played two money games, guarantee games. But it wasn't the likes of Alabama and Georgia. Louisiana Tech.
But how does that hurt the budget? How does that hurt?
See, it didn't hurt the budget.
Grambling got a nice Ohio State last week. Seemed like they came out okay.
But I think he's specifically talking about Louisiana Tech.
At least from what I hear, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, he did say that they came out at.
But how does that?
But Charles, didn't they say that the Grambling did come out of the game without any major injuries against Ohio State? Yeah.
Yeah, most times it's not going to be major injuries, but it's just what's the word I'm looking for? It's just the meaning of it all. Remember we had Rodney on talking about making deals, playing Northwestern State, playing LSU again, Louisiana Tech, ULL. No, that's not going to bring you that huge money. But I think Southern they negotiate a little different with some of these games.
Hey, Carlos, I can't remember, but did the band go to Fresno?
Oh, they there.
Oh, yeah.
They love the band.
Right. I know. Most of those institutions, they put in the contract, they want the bands there because they tell me that it was off the chain at Ohio State with Grambling's band up there.
What was that guarantee down there out of Fresno, Carlos? What's the guarantee?
$525,000. I wanted a little more.
Wasn't worth it.
I wanted a little more.
I got to drag the band with me too. No,
cross
I had to
country.
do without that one.
Yeah, but if I'm not mistaken, I think that was taken care of. Outside. Now, but I could be wrong, but I think it's outside. Remember I told the story when Stomp Mitchell was the football coach and they were playing New Mexico, but they wasn't bringing the band. The Black Professors Association raised that money in 2 days to get Southern's band there. Yeah. So it is what it is. It really is. Now I guess we'll take another short break, and when we come back, we'll get into those games last week. It was tough. Then we'll have our predictions for this week. Some interesting games. Coach Pettaway, Alabama A&M, and Tennessee State.
Right. I'm here in Nashville now. For the big game because I couldn't do the Carlos Brown show and make it from home. Let me do
On that note, I'll peek in the chat room. But I think that discussion about guarantee games is 30 years from now.
Moot point.
I won't be.
No.
Well, I wouldn't say moot. I won't be here. But on my,
You'll be here, man.
oh
You'll be
my,
here, Carlos.
90 years old, and I'll be like,
Yeah, you'll be
you know what?
Carlos.
Well, I may not, but I'm just saying.
You'll be turning your hearing aid up, but you'll be here.
And you know what I'm gonna say? My last words about
Welcome
this
to the
conversation.
Carlos Brown Show.
And also, I'm still not playing all guarantee games. We'll take a time out. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. As we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We're going to be doing some predictions, but I'm going to pull it up. But I've been getting some interesting text messages. Let me read them quickly. The offensive scheme Southern is running does not put pressure on the defense, period. That's simple and to the point. Also, he said, you drop balls, you run wind sprints. When I played offensive lineman, if I and another lineman got a penalty in practice, we had to run wind sprints after practice. And, you know, to his point, Syracuse won their other football game, and they were in uniform. And I think I texted Coach Pettaway and said, have you seen that before? And they were in full uniform running afterwards. It's kind of more, not the physical aspect, but more of the mental thing. But drop passes can come at an inopportune moment. It's just like special teams. Man, a special team lapse can just kill you. It could change the game. So, oh boy. And this person also said across college football, offensively, they're running a lot of the same stuff. Let me pull up that one. I think I sent you guys that as well about, and I think it came from the guy from HBCU Nightly. But anyway, he was just talking about all of the slant. Well, not slant, but bubble screen. They got so many bubble screen, east and west. That's the trend in college now, offensively, Wheeler. And I know that wouldn't sit right with you because you're old school.
True. Definitely.
My buddy Emmanuel Barnes hates the bubble screen.
I ain't a big fan of it at all. You might well run the ball. You want to use a bubble screen. You're getting the same result. 3 yards and a cloud of dust.
But then everybody's using some form of the West Coast offense, and they call it the West Coast offense, but I'm going to be honest. To me, I call it the Valley, because to me, Archie was doing what they're doing back in the day. He was doing this, spreading the doggone field and asking you to match up with them receivers, man. Archie was doing this well before they started talking about some West Coast offense.
Where is the creativity?
Ain't but so much you can do, Carlos. Ain't but so much you can do in a game of football. At the end of the day, it's still about blocking and tackling.
Right, but if it's not,
that part ain't gonna change. You got to be physical. You got to impose
I agree with
your
that.
will on the opponent.
Right.
Create a new line of scrimmage each and every play. Period.
But you got to have the players to run some of those offenses.
Yes, you do.
Any kind of offense, you got to have players to do it. You got to have linemen that can block. You got to have a QB, receivers, and people that can catch the football. On the offensive side, you got to have players to run the system that you're coaching. And that's where I think is some people are going wrong, and not just football, basketball too. It's a copycat. Everybody they do a version of what they see. But if you don't have the players for that system, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You got guys running dribble handoff in basketball, and then you got 4 kids on the floor that can't dribble. How the hell is that going to work?
The basics don't change.
Right.
The basics don't change. And if you don't have coaches that can teach the fundamentals of whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's not going to make any sense at all. Like Coach Pettaway said, it ain't going to work.
Yeah.
You just kidding yourself.
Now, I agree with that part.
I mean,
it's
I
all
ain't
about
gonna
the
put a tackle out
fundamentals.
there. I ain't gonna put the left tackle out there to catch the bubble screen.
Nope.
that ain't gonna work. That's a waste of time.
And you ain't gonna pull that guard if he can't run lateral.
It sure can't. That's
right.
For
Why
sure.
would you pull a guard that can't run lateral?
That's for sure.
That's why when I mean be creative, we gonna cover the basics. It's just like writing. Do you know some kids don't know how to write in cursive?
Oh yeah, because they don't teach it.
But that's part of writing, right?
Yeah.
And then you have some that know how to print, kind of. But now, with new technology, everything is so computer-based, computer shuts down.
They're lost. Yep.
Don't give me an old-fashioned screenplay. With the running back coming out the backfield. Let me get some slants. Let me get some curve. I want to be balanced. Yeah, I know it goes back to fundamentals, but if 80% of things you're doing, it's called being repetitive, but people catch on to your tendencies. Bubble screen to the short side, to the long side. 3rd and 8, we're going deep. Oh, off his fingertips. He almost had it, but I don't see a whole package. I don't. And guess what? I'm sorry. All of that, when you go in a non-conference game, or when you go, for those who choose to go to playoffs, like I look at North Dakota State, they kind of more traditional. They win the line. Win the line of scrimmage.
That's it.
And miss me with people, they're getting the best talent. You can still get the best talent, but you still got to teach and coach.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Y'all continue. I just want to see us do better. Winning out of conference, winning championships, yes, that's fine. But I'm going to tell you, You're right, Pat Riley. He said he don't see no need of playing all those doggone guarantee games. But what surprised you about last week in the conference? We know everybody played up and out of conference. Would you agree Jackson State gave the best account of themselves?
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
I thought
Represented
against
well.
Southern Miss, I had an opportunity to watch some of that game. I thought they were doing great in that game, man, and just a couple of plays cost Jackson a chance at winning that game. But now I'm gonna be honest. Now I was disappointed in Prairie View playing at home and allowing what is that UTRG to come in there. I didn't expect that for them to lose to them. But everything else was about on course, with the exception of I picked Southern to beat Alabama State, so I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. But with the other games, I did say that my Bulldogs would beat Alcorn. The final score now is not an indication of how close the game was, because I think that last touchdown was scored with 11 seconds left or something like that. So that was a lot closer. Either. Yeah. That's true.
Charles, how they feeling in Brave Land, Charles, on the reservation?
I think the anxiety is still there as far as making a change on the offensive side of the ball. Right now, the key word for us is consistency. So against Northwestern State, our only touchdown was scored by the defense. So we need to get our offense going. So our offense did get going. 31 points last week. We left some meat on the bone, as Cedric Thomas likes to say. We could have had a little bit more offensively, but we scored 31 points, which is good enough to win on the road. But then our defense kind of let us down, giving Alabama A&M receivers plenty of cushion. I mean, 7 yards a pop. That hurt us.
I saw that, yeah.
And so that was the disappointment there. And then special teams, we gave Alabama A&M a touchdown on our opening punt return. We fumble it, and we give them a short field. So, but people still believe that there should be some changes on the offensive side with our ROC, which Cedric Thomas is sticking with at this point in time. Our quarterback, Jalen Tolbert, had a decent game. We had Jacorian Sewell had an 80-yard run. And when you talk about Braves football, you talk about the running game. So our running game was good. Got to be a little bit more consistent on the offensive side. But defensively is where the letdown occurred last week. So I think it's a neutral situation. I think what quieted a little bit was the 31 points, and that was good to see. Hopefully we can get that today against Mississippi State, a defense that gave up 254 running the football. Arizona had that last week. We're about to run the football. So, I mean, it's kind of status quo. I think going into the season, our fans thought the first two games, Northwestern State and Alabama A&M, would be a good litmus test. And, we didn't beat Northwestern State. Our folks are still stinging about that one. But this one, you get the check, in-state game. This team can score. Libby is a really good offensive mind, the head coach. They can put up a bunch of points, and we hope not. Hope our defense steps up. But right now, I think our fans are looking at the game in Memphis in a couple of weeks. We're off next week too, Carlos. We got a game, obviously, in Memphis against UAPB. So our folks are kind of on the same kind of track as Southern University fans. Some adjustments need to be made here, there. But, the anxiety is there for sure.
Last week's scores, it was Cal over Texas Southern, 35-3. Of course, we talked a little bit about it. Southern Miss 38, Jackson State 20, but they gave a good account of themselves. Of course, we talked about it, Alabama State over Southern University, 30-7. If you looked at the stats, you would have thought the score would have been much closer. But when you turn the ball over 4 times, that's not good. Not good
7
at all.
turnovers in 3 games, Carlos. That's a sticking point.
And you still think people don't need to make a change? Yeah, he made the right change. Alabama A&M over Alcorn 41-31. It was University of Miami over Bethune-Cookman 45-3. Ohio State over Georgia, over Grambling, 70-0. This next score, I was really disappointed. Not that they lost, but how by many points. It was the Owls of Florida Atlantic 56, FAMU 14. You don't think FAMU? Brian Fuller, EA. EA said he's not concerned last week. We'll see what they got this week, but I got them favored, but we'll see. Tarleton State over Mississippi Valley State 59-3. It was Prairie View losing to UTRG 27-21. That's disappointing.
Yep.
And Central Arkansas over UAPB 41-17. You're not disappointed? I mean, we're not FAMU alums, but we love our HBCU Nation. That was disappointing to me. And just kind of judging on the ONG show right here on the Black College Sports Network, seemed like a lot of fans were very disappointed. Kind of feels familiar, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry, Carlos. It's interesting, with the Rattler fan base. We talk about the Braves fan base. We talk about the Jaguar fan base. But I'm like you, Carlos. I'm peeping around, looking around, and I think that Florida A&M, I think it's their first home game today. I wonder what people were saying about Colsey and the job he's done. And I'm going a little bit above that with the new president, new administration, maybe new AD, and he's got a 3-year deal from what I understand. And so what's the expectation for Florida A&M, which I have downgraded in my poll? I have Alabama A&M actually based on what I saw last week. I think Alabama A&M, I put them above Florida A&M right now. And if Alabama A&M tightens it up defensively and be a little more disciplined as far as the penalties are concerned, you got Cornelius Brown, a quarterback, dual threat. They got the receivers that can go get it. They got the running game that can go tote the mail. Alabama A&M might be a problem if they continue to figure it out. And this game against Tennessee State will be a great litmus test. But as far as the Rattler fans are concerned, they have a right to be concerned. I like Colsey, good dude, good guy, but I think the expectations are a little bit more in Tallahassee based on the fact they won the Celebration Bowl a few years ago, even though Willie Simmons was there and he's gone. I think the expectations are still high, and it's been a great level of disappointment so far. So we'll see if they can bounce back at home.
Yeah, I think you see disappointment throughout, especially the ones that are teams that are used to winning and they have high expectations.
And I don't know that Colsey would have necessarily been my hire. I think it was some others out there that brought a little bit more to the table. Yeah, I mean, I understand the hire, him being on the staff and, all that sort of thing and continuity and all the other adjectives that you want to throw along with that. But I don't know. I just think it was a few other folks that might have fit the bill a little better out there at the time. But it is what it is, and, they got to live with it, and, let's see where it goes from there.
Yeah, you make decisions. You have committees that help you. Some make a direct hire.
Yeah.
And you make the decision, and you have to live by it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out,
I mean, I see
things are going to be put at you.
Over at Albany State, doing a pretty decent job, FAMU guy, that sort of thing. And, historically one of the better FAMU players, but doing a pretty decent job as a head coach at where he is right now. And I don't know, I kind of would have leaned a little bit more maybe in that direction, but it is what it is.
I would agree with you, Wheeler, on that if they had won the trifecta that year. If they had won the Eastern Division, if they had won the SWAC, or if they had won the Celebration Bowl, I would agree with you that maybe with Willie Simmons leaving, that maybe it was time for a fresh start. But when you win it all like that and you had a pretty successful staff under you, I think the general attitude is let's keep the continuity going. Willie Simmons was a good developer of coaches, so you got a coach on the staff. Now, the process how Colsey got the job was a whole nother conversation. If you remember that whole process, it took a lot longer than probably expected. Some coaches left along the way. And so, I mean, I thought it would have been an automatic hire. Boom, you hire them, you hire Coles, and you go. But there was some stops and starts there. So, but I understand your point in terms of maybe starting over in a refresh. But when you win the whole thing, the general attitude is you got assistant coaches on that staff that understand the template. And so you just keep the template going with just a new face over it. And I think that's what Florida A&M was looking for.
I understand that. I do. I really do. I just thought that I didn't see anybody there at that time that could really pick the ball up and run with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, for my money, I would have gone outside of that, kept my FAMU ties if at all possible, you know, which would help in terms of continuity factor, that sort of thing. But, you know, and I would have had more of a grace period by doing so. When it went with Colsey, who was already there, that sort of thing, and like you said, they've had some immediate success, that sort of thing. They were expecting lightning in a bottle.
Right.
And for this thing to happen like right now.
Right.
You know, so going outside of that little circle at that time would have taken some of the pressure off. You know, we could have built it the right way, that sort of thing and stuff. And, you know, who knows from there. So six one way, half done the other, Charles, you know.
Yeah.
So they're where they are right now. And, you know, Colsey's going to have to step it up. There's no doubt about that, because I can feel the seat probably getting a little warm there in a few spots, especially like you said with a new president, that sort of thing. And we know how fickle these presidents get, very quick. You know, so we'll see what happens from that point of view. So,
is it real quick, Wheeler?
Yeah, like you would not believe, Charles. Like you would not believe. And the pressure rolls downhill. Ain't no doubt about that.
Always.
You know, got a new AD, that sort of thing. You know, look, Miss So-and-so, you know, you just coming in. You know, don't you want to make your mark on this thing? Don't you want to put your mark on this thing? You know, all the while he's probably telling her, look, you know, this ain't going like they thought it was gonna go. You know, better to make the decision sooner than make it later. Let's go ahead and do what we're gonna do and keep it moving. So,
but what gets me though, guys, is that when you talk about FBS programs that get new presidents, you don't see that. You don't. And I mean, so why is that? I mean, for me, like LSU's looking for a president right now. LSU's looking for a president. Brian Kelly got off the hot seat by beating Clemson. He struggled against Tech, but that AD has done a really good job. But he's not in any trouble. But it seems like at our schools, and I'm saying this as an HBCU grad, and I've seen this many a time, with a new president, it just seems like unless you've had immediate success as a coach of winning a recent championship, your seat is a little uncomfortable, even though you've had overall success. What about the recent success or recent failures? That kind of hurts you there when we hire presidents. That's just interesting to me.
Well, it's always politics. I refer to them the people of influence. You may have heard me say people at the back of the campus. I won't go back way in history, but A.W. Mumford was the AD and the football coach. He had so much power. Snap his finger. He would talk to the president the way he wanted to, if need be, because he was always fighting for his kids. And he also coached track and field. I was told by historians, and maybe we can put this all in context. I did something with my niece. Who's the president of the university? Couldn't tell me. Who's the football coach or the basketball coach? Could tell me. Right? So I think you have some of that going on.
And you have a lot of that going on.
Yes.
Okay, I've been nice. Okay. And, and then we've also said if you have a president or chancellor, people of influence who are sports friendly, that helps. If they're not sports friendly, then just kind of you could be concerned with academics and let the other people be concerned with athletics. But sometimes they like to get into that limelight. I was coming down the elevator at the last home game, and the people of influence are a level below us. So we coming down from the third to the second. When the door opens, one guy saw me, and the look on his face, and it wasn't Tony Clayton. So sometimes you have to speak the power. We all say it's sports. It's like the front porch to the university. And I think when you have that type of relationship, that helps. But
I got one question, Carlos. I got one question.
Okay.
And he asked the president if he was on the Carlos Brown contract.
I'll put it this way. I think my past has kind of have certain people a certain way, a certain look about me, a certain feeling about me.
Hey, but Will, I'm gonna tell you something that's worse than that. Forget about the president. What if that coach and that athletic director is in that same kind of scenario where that AD doesn't feel comfortable? Most people know the coaches, the head coaches, more than they do the athletic director.
That's right.
And when you get out in the public, that can create a problem now.
Yeah, it can. If you are not confident in who you are, I've always said my mantra is this: a good AD should be seen and not heard.
There you go.
That's always been my thing. Right there. So if you don't know who I am, Carlos, I'm cool with that. That's fine.
That's a good one. Seen and not heard.
Not heard. That's right.
But out in public, helping raise, helping with your assistants, doing all that good things. And I tell you, you're naive if you think the people of influence or people on the board, they'll say, I'm not involved. If my opinion is asked, I'll give it. But we all know.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask for their opinion, they'll give it. So, but then winning, here's all.
Yeah, it does.
Coach Pettaway, your program was a winner. It doesn't mean you won't get bullets thrown at you or people coming at you, but that shield is winning and winning consistently.
Yep.
Don't win one year and then the next year you go all the way down. You just cut off some of your time. But again, we've talked about it. The culture now is such you have to win and win quickly.
Yep.
The days of those 5 and 6 year contracts, they're gone. Now, I think maybe somebody was asking me, should the presidents have a 5 or 6 year contract? Probably not.
But
what's
they
good
do
for the goose? Yeah. But somebody said what's good for the goose ought to be good for the gander, but it's not. So that's why I hope. So I saw in the chat room. Oh, come on, Carlos. You're an insider. You know Graves is in serious trouble. If I thought that, and if it was, I'm not going to go out in public and shout it on the rooftops that he's in trouble. Your work will lead. You'll have your example by your work. If, let's just throw it out. Let's say if you end up being 3-9, not good. You don't have to ask me, what do you think? 3-9. Is that good? No. So, and I get it. You have losing season. If you overall 10 years successful. You know, Coach Pettaway, did you have a losing season?
Yes.
Not too many though, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a losing season. I don't think there's a coach out there that has not had a losing season. That's gonna happen, man. If you stay in it long enough. Just like they say, you get in the coaching to get fired. So you stay in it long enough, it's gonna happen, man.
Yeah, you're just showing the front door a little quicker than usual.
Right.
Back in the day. All righty. Prediction times. But wait a minute, let me go back. Disappointment. I said FAMU. Somebody said Prairie View last week. And I think G Boom we're being facetious because when you're confident, there's nothing wrong with being confident. The expectations with the hire of Coach Jackson, I think it went up. It went up. Not that you didn't have expectations before. So let's see if they bounce back. But boy, they're playing up today. And the Rice team that played UL and just put a good beating on them. This Rice team hadn't had a lot of success in the past, but that's still going to be a challenge. But Charles, in it game kind of surprised you or disappointed you last week?
Of course, disappointed that Alcorn lost. I was disappointed with that. That's my first and obvious disappointment. Because I thought that our defense would kind of tighten up a little bit, but we sprung a leak. We'll have to fix that going forward. But Jackson State was a good. I'm impressed with Jackson State and what they did. Charles Huff, the coach at USM, is going to be a really good coach for them, I think, going forward. He said in the press conference, special teams, that he saw weakness with Jackson State special teams, and he kind of bragged and poked his chest out and said, well, if I called the punt block on, we would have had 2 or 3 punt blocks. I don't know about that, but he was kind of
why you didn't do it?
Well, I mean, I think what he said was that the situation is dictated at the time that he wouldn't do that. But if he did, I think he just got caught up in the moment. He heard about the rivalry, he heard about the in-state game, all that other stuff. But Jackson State, I thought was really solid there in that, and we're playing up Mississippi State, and so. But I thought that was the one game. And look, Prairie View, it was their home opener. I think the Panthers are going to be a team that we're going to have to talk about in the West, because right now Southern is kind of struggling. We're trying to figure things out. There's only been one game played in conference, Texas Southern Prairie View, and I think despite Tremaine Jackson's hot air and talk before the season, I think he's getting kind of a dose of it. And I think if Prairie View continues to get better, I think Prairie View could be a rebel rouser in the Western Division.
I'm going to be honest. The West is just anybody can win the West as of now. Now it may change.
A 3-loss team, Carla. I'm gonna use an AD Drewism.
Oh,
AD Drew is good for saying a 3-loss team in the West could very well, and he was right a few years ago. A 3-loss team could very well win the West this year with the uncertainty of what's going on. I mean, Southern kind of figuring things out with their changes, and we're trying to figure things out right now. Prairie View, and a little bit on the rise. That West could get really interesting.
And I don't think that's a crime. I mean, that still equates to a pretty decent season. What you talking, 8-3?
A division title. You're playing for the SWAC championship.
That ain't bad at all.
Yeah.
I could live with that. I mean, Alabama State took a notch up on my list, because I wasn't a big fan, really at the time.
Finally.
And, but I tell you, Alabama A&M,
not bad.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed with Shade. I didn't know a whole lot about him, but just from watching the team play and the organizational skills and things of that nature, I'm impressed with Shade. I am.
Yeah,
and, I think the sky's the limit. For them, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I told you all when I went to practice, I like what I was seeing in terms of organization and the speed of their practices. It's up tempo. A lot of that is his time out in Tuscaloosa. A lot of that is from his experience in the NFL, because they don't have a lot of wasted time. They're very productive. So I think if Quad, just like going into this game today, Carlos, if our quarterback, if Quad Brown can stay upright and have a good game, I think we will. I know we'll beat Tennessee State, but it's going to come down to Quad and on the offensive side, and then of course our defense has got to be able to stop some people.
Coach Pettaway, real quick, if Alabama State keeps winning and if Alabama A&M keeps winning, the Magic City's about a month away. What do you think that's going to look like?
Oh, man, it's going to be off. Well, it's already off the chain. It's the largest HBCU game in the country anyway, but it'll even be larger if both teams are competing for that East Division. You know, that chase against Jackson State. Yep, it'll be big. It'll be big.
Well, that leads me into today's schedule, Saturday, September 13th. Tuskegee at Jackson State, 2 p.m. Boy, I saw some Jackson State fans saying hydrate. You should have saw hydrating yesterday. Thursday, 2 o'clock. Remember last year that Southern and Jackson game, and then it ended up being at 6. But
you did that, Carlos. Now you're the one that caused that to happen.
That was just common sense. 105 heat index at 2, and then 95 at 6 p.m. I think I take both hot, but I'm gonna take the
95.
Yeah. So it's on SWAC TV, 2 p.m. Tuskegee. And by the way, they had their first night game. Electric atmosphere. Let's get right to it. I like Jackson State in this one, and I don't think somebody was mentioning that you think that it'll be a slight come down because of playing up, then playing beneath it. No, I think TC Taylor will have them ready. It might be close for a half a quarter, but I like Jackson State to roll in that game, Coach Pettaway.
Well, I like Jackson State. I don't know about rolling now because Tuskegee can play, but I think I'm all for Jackson State. I think they'll win the game.
If it's a 10-point win, you think Jackson State fans consider that not good?
Yes. Oh, you know, JSU just like the Jag Nation. They want it all, man. They want it all right now.
I'm glad you said that. And somebody in the chat room, I think it was G Boom, said, Jackson State and Southern, the only alums that are cocky and arrogant and take pride. No, everybody does. Everybody does.
I got Jackson State winning this game, but for Tuskegee, they got a couple of Super Bowls, this year. They got I think they play obviously Alabama State in this game. I mean, so I think Tuskegee's gonna be flying high, going into the vet. I think Jackson State just got better Jimmies and Joes and X's and O's. I do think Jackson will bounce back, but I think the social media chatter, Tuskegee folks are bragging, and if they close, they feel like that's a moral victory. But in terms of just the play on the field, I think Jackson State is just a better team, and I think Jackson will win this game.
Well, they're going to get spanked. This social media, everybody's champions on social media. You see what happens. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then reality steps in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think Jackson State at least by 10.
Yeah.
At least.
Social media elevates when you win, it decimates when you lose because you got to turn around and eat it. So that's what social media is all about.
That's why I'm glad it's played on the field.
Yep.
Right.
Alabama A&M at Tennessee State, 3:30 p.m. ESPN Plus, a very intriguing game. I want to see what the panel prediction on this game.
Yeah, and like I said, I got A&M winning.
What
I got A&M winning too.
Yeah, I got Alabama A&M winning too. But Reggie Barlow's doing a good job with that program. Very surprised hire, by the way, as far as I'm concerned. But I think it's a good matchup. Two schools 100 miles plus away. I think Alabama A&M playing with a little bit of swagger, a little bit. I got A&M winning this game. I think it'll be a high scoring game though.
Let's see. Tennessee State got blew out last week, I think, or early this season against North Dakota State.
Oh, yeah.
Let me have to check on that. Mm-hmm. Oh, my.
There's not many teams going to stay on the field with North Dakota State.
You got that right.
Them big cornbread eating, boy, I'm telling you something now. They can play. They're in the trenches, they like them NFL teams now.
They FBS in disguise.
Yeah,
Carlos.
You don't have to tell me. And then they go get their skill people from the urban area, Chicago and Detroit. But I asked that because I want to see how their mindset is. Tennessee State, if I got whipped that bad, I would like to take it out on the next opponent very, very well. I would say this is an evenly matched game. And the game is in Nashville, right, Coach Pettaway?
Yes.
I'll be in the minority. I'm gonna say something freakish will happen, a turnover in Tennessee State. I'm not gonna say like Wheeler because they're at home. Well, we know that. That's where I'm gonna be the dissenter. I'm gonna say Tennessee State, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, Coach Pettaway.
Oh, I hope you are too.
Stadium too big, Carlos. Crowd of 9,000.
Well, yeah, somebody took a shot in the chat room about where it's playing in the NFL stadium.
Yeah,
Not on their stadium. Yeah.
Non-factor.
I'm gonna move along from that. There's enough been said already. Miles at Alabama State, 4 p.m. HBCU go. Alabama State coming off a big victory. When the light show started in the fourth quarter, they was dancing like they were at home. They were confident, but at least they didn't step on the logo. And by the way, that turf is beautiful. Too bad we couldn't have a better representation at home. But that being said, could this be a trap game, or should I not say that?
Yes.
It could be a trap game, but I don't think Alabama State's going to fall for it. They're not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Alabama State will win this one.
Charles?
I'm not so sold. I'm not sold. It seems like when Alabama State plays Tuskegee and Miles, it's a dogfight for Miles. And even though they got a new coach, Sam Shade is now at Alabama A&M. It just seems like Miles matches up well with Alabama State, regardless of the Hornets, the roster. I'm going to go with Alabama State, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
Charles reminds me of the doubting Thomas. Remember that guy in the Bible?
Alabama State, Carlos. Hell, they're all trap games.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all trap games.
I'm going to say Alabama State too. I think they may start off sluggish, but they'll get it going. They'll get it going. Because, a good big man can beat a good little man most of the time. Yeah, it might come out in boxing terms and, get that jab working and pop. Then he gets hit one time with a true heavyweight. It'll start making them think about it. But if we come back next week and it's a shocker, I wouldn't believe it, but I'm gonna say Alabama State. Alcorn State at Mississippi State, playing with house money. Alcorn has nothing to worry about. Go out and have fun, work on the things that you need to improve on. Mississippi State will roll in this game.
I got Mississippi State.
Definitely Mississippi State.
A lot of our fans want Cedric Thomas to run the football, snap the football with 2 on the play clock, drain the clock, and get out of Stark Vegas with a paycheck. Cedric Thomas says, "We're playing to win the game. We're playing to win the game." I think our defense is gonna this high-powered offense at Mississippi State. We got to find a way to slow that down. We just got to come out of this game healthy. Got a bye week coming up, and let's get ready for UAPB.
I was listening to the broadcast last week, and it was so funny. The game was over. Dean Bourne said, "Snap the ball, hand it to the referee, and let's get out of here."
Yeah.
and y'all, it was just so funny because basically the game was over, and then I think Alcorn still ran, a couple of plays. Dean Bourne, that's my guy. Dean said, "Just snap the ball, hand it to the referee, and let's get out of there."
Yeah.
I agree. Bethune-Cookman at South Carolina State. 5 p.m. Wheeler?
South Carolina State.
Yep.
By a lot.
I'm South Carolina State too.
South Carolina State by a good amount.
And they did a good job against South Carolina last week. Wasn't bad at all.
Yep.
They were very represented. Yeah.
Yeah, delayed weather. They had that. They were able to come, still keep their marbles with them, and got out of it relatively healthy.
I got South Carolina State, but we talk about coaches. You got a new president there, Bethune-Cookman. You got Reggie Theus, the AD, and you just wonder what the expectation for Bethune-Cookman football is, especially with the new administration. But yeah,
can't be that high, Charles. They ain't put no money in the program.
Well,
how can it be?
I'm just saying.
And you saw the information that I sent you about the teams that's putting money in the football program.
Right.
Who came first out of our SWAC schools? They were like, what was that? So much is given, much is expected.
That's true. There's no doubt about that.
But when much is not given, the still is the expectation any lower?
No, not with our presidents is not.
Alcorn's goal is to win the SWAC, right?
They want wine out of water, Charles. They want you to make wine out of water.
And our president has said we got one of the smallest budgets in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, one of the bottom 2 or 3, but the expectation is still to go out there and win the division, win celebration, win the SWAC. We've done 2 of the 3, but we haven't done the 3rd, though.
Yeah, but we don't want to go. One man did it with meager resources, and he did it, and I think Willem to the point.
All
right. We got 4 minutes. Okay, let me roll. Lincoln at Arkansas Pine Bluff, 5 p.m. SWAC TV.
Pine Bluff.
It's a unanimous decision. Okay, Kentucky State at Grambling State, 6 p.m. SWAC TV.
Grambling.
Everybody whispering about Grambling.
Another D2 for Grambling? Gee.
Not so fast.
What's going on down there, Charles? What's going on down there?
Grambling. They got the $1 million from Ohio State. They're dancing in Grambling. Got the $1 million paycheck from Ohio State.
I guess that allows you to play 2 D2s, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. That's the main reason they're 2-0. Mississippi Valley State at Southeastern. Wow, 6 p.m. ESPN.
Southeastern.
Yeah, it's tough. I said year 2 or 3. Maybe we'll see some upsurge with Mississippi Valley State. Competent coach.
If the resources increase, I would say yes.
Well, in that case,
but if not, you're going to get more of the same.
SOS, huh?
That's right.
Another intriguing game, non-conference, Lamar at Texas Southern, 6 p.m. SWAC TV. I'm going to have to hit Chatterbox up with that one.
Lamar.
Charles?
Hey, I'm gonna take a flyer on this one. I'm gonna go with Texas Southern. I'm gonna go with TSU in this matchup. Texas Southern University.
Okay, well,
and I better be more people there from Lamar than it will Texas Southern folks.
Oh wow,
that's probably true.
What is it about Texas Southern and Prairie View with attendance? G Boom, tell me.
Logistics.
Well, wait a minute. Texas Southern is a big metropolitan area.
Yeah,
I guess there's so many things to do.
With 1,001 things to do, in a soccer stadium. My thinking is that they had something decent on campus, that sort of thing, it would probably help them a lot better. Yeah, but the little small stadium at the end, little soccer stadium, that sort of thing, I don't know that it's conducive to having a major type of Saturday college football.
They do
better on campus.
Well,
They
I'm
play
going.
one campus game they play one campus game a year, and that's homecoming, I believe. They'll play the College of Biblical Studies or somebody like that for homecoming on that at that stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going with Texas Southern in the squeaker.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Texas Southern. Albany State at FAMU. FAMU gets in the win column, but I think they'll pull away in the second half. And they have offensive issues as well.
I'm gonna go with FAMU, but you got Quinn Gray coming home.
Looking to prove
that he should have gotten that job. So it's gonna be interesting.
Good.
Miscellaneous sidebar. Intangibles. Last but not least, Southern at Fresno State. Quite simply, Fresno State will win. Okay. The key thing for Southern is come out and hopefully the changes that have been made will give them a start to get ready for Jackson State in 2 weeks. Fresno State.
Yeah, I'm going Fresno State also.
Fresno.
Yeah, that shouldn't even be any debate about that.
Now, Carlos, real quick, PV at Rice. PV at Rice.
Did I miss PV at Rice?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Rice, yes.
Rice, by a lot.
Yeah. All I need is some red beans with the rice. But I think they will get off to a good start. But yeah, Rice will take care of business. 1 and 2.
All righty.
Well, I want to thank everybody in the chat room. Melody, our producer. I still need to ask her about what is her ties to the MEAC. Okay. You think I'll get an answer? You want the show, hold on and then tell me after the show is over. Don't forget, continue the conversation in the chat room. Appreciate everybody. Until next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until that time, it's peace and God bless. And everybody be safe out there. It's a mad, mad world we're living in.
Yes, it is.
Peace.